Well, good afternoon to everybody that's listening to our COVID-19 special interviews. And this week I'm delighted to do one from a place where I used to live, which is the capital region of the United States of America. And I'm equally delighted to have Scott Balyo on here. Scott, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Graham. Great to be with you.
Scott, perhaps you can explain what the capital region is in terms of tourism. It's, as I understand it, it's a consortia of three main areas of the USA where a lot has happened, lots happening, and a good place to come and visit.
It is. So it's a group of three entities. I wouldn't say three states, two states and the District of Columbia. So Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland working together to promote overseas.
Good. Well, presumably your main port of entry is going to be Dulles Airport. That gives people access to north, south, and if they wanted to go further west, if they wanted to. What's the current state? Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Dulles is our main gateway airport, and it's a great place to not only base for come in for a visit to the capital region, but other points in the U.S. as well. It's a great Eastern Seaboard gateway.
Do you find that the majority of people that come to the region do a fly drive type, so that they can go along the Blue Ridge Mountains, they can all the way down to Virginia Beach, then come back up into D.C. and into Maryland?
Absolutely, and you've described the kind of the classic loop pretty well there, Graham. Coming into Dulles, going down through Shenandoah, over through like Charlottesville and Richmond, Williamsburg to Virginia Beach, then up the eastern shore of Virginia and Maryland, over to Annapolis, back through Baltimore, Frederick, perhaps over to Western Maryland. So no, you can do a very nice fly drive loop, usually 10 days or so. So it makes a very nice trip.
Do the people in the capital region feel that that they're perhaps under-visited as opposed to over-tourism, under-visited? Because when you consider the region, it's really the heart of history and heritage. If you go back to the Civil War, to the War of Independence, I could go on, but that's really, we're getting down on it when we get to your region, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's really where America got its start. I mean, there's obviously other very historic places, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, other places along the East Coast. But if you're looking for the heart of American history and where American culture and everything began, it really is our region. And so, yeah, for people who are interested in America's beginnings and much of America's present can be found right in the capital region.
Now, currently, I assume that there's little or no international visitation, even from anywhere at the moment into the capital region. But are the plans? Is the strategy to do pretty much what everybody else is doing? That's to encourage people to go out locally, and then perhaps within the region, and then nationally, and then hopefully towards the latter end of this year, maybe the early part of the autumn or the fall, as we would say in America, that international visitors may be welcome.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think what you're finding is it's kind of almost a concentric circle. So people are going to start close to home. They're going to visit that favorite state park or something like that. I know domestically our partners are looking to target that drive traffic from within, say, 500 miles away, or perhaps from even Canada to start some international. And then really, as you said, starting in the autumn through 2021, you're going to see more of that recovery on the overseas visitation side. We're hoping that, we'll get some, it's almost like technology. You'll get some early adopters that once those travel restrictions are lifted and once all of our locations are ready to welcome those travelers back, that we will see, hopefully it'll start with a trickle and then a steady increase. I think there's going to be quite a bit of demand, and just even the nature of this, of people not being able to leave their house almost, will hopefully generate some additional demand to want to get out there and see new places or get back to familiar old haunts.
Now, you mentioned your people being ready to accept visitors. What feedback? I mean, your stakeholders are the state tourism boards, DC Cool DC or DC Cool and Virginia and Maryland, but in turn, their main stakeholders. What sort of feedback have you got? Are they ready to accept visitors now? Have they got their act together?
We are at the very kind of reopening stages, even just for local residents. Destination DC or Washington DC's in phase one. which means some limited reopenings of places. You can go back to the National Mall, for instance. You can go to parks and things like that. Most of Virginia is in a phase 2, so there's some allowances for some dining, even some indoor dining, reduced restrictions on retail and things like that, campgrounds reopening. Maryland is in about a phase 2 as well right now. Maryland's approach is a little more community-centric. They're allowing local municipalities to sort of adjust their reopenings as conditions on the ground warrant. But I think the good thing for what we do for international tourism is that domestic tourism will have a chance to sort of get back and get comfortable. Places will have a chance to sort of ramp that up. And so hopefully by the time that overseas travelers start to visit, everybody will be pretty comfortable with kind of this new normal we're going to be in for a while.
Do you, again, the feedback you get from your partners, are they pretty much writing off 2020, or are they thinking that there may be a little bit of international tourism towards the end of the year?
Right. I think, summer, obviously, we've essentially written off at this point. If we get some flights starting to resume this summer, I think that would be a big step. We don't expect the planes to be obviously at capacity for a while, but that would be good and a good show of confidence. But no, I think autumn of this year, there's still potential there if the rollout goes well, if we don't see a resurgence of the virus. I mean, there's a lot of, obviously, as you know, there's a lot of factors at play. And just as some of the closures, we had some hiccups along the way there. I'm assuming there's probably going to be some in the reopening as well. But, I think we could see some in autumn. Autumn's a great time to come to the capital region. We always say that our fall colors rival New England's. We're just not as well known for it. So that's a great time to return. I think you'll see hopefully some deals from the operators and the airlines to get people moving again. But no, 2021 looks to be, from what we've seen by the end of 2021, we should be hopefully closing back in on our normal numbers, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about the fall, because that's always been my favorite time of the year to go to the capital region. And you're right, the fall colors are quite spectacular, especially when you get up into the Blue Ridge Mountains and around, well, for almost anywhere actually. It's interesting because I think that research would suggest that fly drive holidays are going to be very popular in this post-COVID world, certainly in the early stages of post-COVID tourism. Your region really lends itself to that, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, our region, and perhaps it's not as well known, but many of the experiences, one, we're a close-knit region. So we're 2 states plus DC, but as you know, Graham, it's easy to get around the region. You can do so pretty quickly. The other nice thing is that even starting in DC, much of the attractions or experiences are in more wide open spaces. DC itself as a city, I mean, you've been there many times, the buildings aren't very high. It doesn't feel very closed in. So I think even psychologically, we have an advantage there. When you get out into the States, whether it's Shenandoah, whether it's getting out on the Chesapeake Bay or along the Atlantic, getting down the Blue Ridge or into Western Maryland, you almost can't help but social distance. So, I think fly drives will, I think we have an advantage there, certainly, as you look at maybe some of the challenges that other parts of the country are facing. And a holiday to the capital region could be really good for people who are starting to look at that U.S. travel again. Good.
Are there any major events, or I know that Richmond, for example, often has major cycling events or Virginia does. Are there any major events coming up in 2021 that people should be keeping their eyes and ears open for?
Yeah, I think the Smithsonian's, the 175th anniversary of the Smithsonian Museums happens next year, so I'm sure they'll have special programming for that. Certainly the National Cherry Blossom Festival, which was certainly interrupted this year because that happens from mid-March to mid-April, so just about the time that everything was shutting down this year. But that's a great time for people to come back, certainly. It'll be interesting to see, as we get back into, for instance, sporting events, whether it's, American football or even the MLS soccer in DC, whether it's Orioles games or Ravens games, as we look at what they're going to do around those stadiums and that part of the experience for people who want to come and enjoy American sports. But I know one thing that communities are wrestling with, and it's going to be a difficult one for a while, is, what to do with those local festivals, and where you've got large groups of people coming in, whether it's around music or culinary or things like that. That's gonna be a challenge for a while, and I think everybody realizes that.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the college football season as well.
Absolutely. No, well said. I think we're all curious to know just what they're going to do, if they're going to try to go at half capacity on the stadiums, or they're kind of in some uncharted territory here, especially if you're looking at a whole season of trying to manage that. But a little bit of time left, so hopefully by late August, early September, they'll have a better feel for how to manage that.
Good. Well, Scott, thank you very, very much for your time. I do wish you the very, very best of luck in getting the region back up and running to where it should be. As you know from personal experience, I have personal experience of the region, and it is one of my favorites in America. It's a great place to visit, great place to live, and I wish you all the very best, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Graham. Appreciate it, and I'll look forward to catching an Orioles game with you the next time you're in the area.
Good man. Speak to you later.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.